Good evening and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's so nice to have people with us for this water meditation, and Cynthia Tootle will provide the leadership tonight, which is always a good thing. Um, I always welcome a creative presentation from Cynthia, and I had the pleasure of being at her garden this last week. She has a beautiful garden, and she lives about a block and a half from the water office, so I had the opportunity to amble over there. We had a nice time. She has a really a beautiful, I mean, it's really an exceptionally beautiful garden with some, Coralie, you know it because you've lived in the house, but you've been there probably at times when the garden hasn't, you've been here in November, so when the garden hasn't been in full bloom, but now it's just in wonderful bloom with more to come. And Cynthia has a lot of uh, gardening expertise and creativity and care. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I thank her again. Speaking of gardens, I will begin with our land acknowledgement because we're on the indigenous land of in Silver Spring, Maryland, which belonged to the Piscataway and Anacostan peoples. And we acknowledge that there has been great trauma and great injustice to indigenous people. So I want to invite you to take just a minute to think of whose land you are on, um, and let it seep in that it's not ours, and that we share it with people who are um, for whom it has been taken away in many instances. So let's just take a minute for that. May our time together be a way of bringing some restoration of justice and peace. This is our ninth meditation for the 2020-21-22 season at Water, and some of you will remember that last month Janet Elsay was with us, and it seems like a long time ago because of how the dates worked out, but you might remember, as I do very vividly, her presentation on praying. She used that wonderful Mary Oliver poem, Praying, and she talked about her own experience of aging and put it in the context of that poem. And I don't know about you, but for me it was a very moving time to hear about her own struggle with Parkinson's disease and also her strength and power as she um, goes about her philanthropic and other kinds of work. And it was just wonderful to have her with us. I hope she'll join again. I mentioned earlier, before some of you got on, that all of the water programs, including this program, can be found on the water homepage. You go in and you look at under programs, and then you look at water meditations under the programs, and you can actually just tap the button and go in, and you'll have the whole list of them. So um, many of you, Virginia and Phoebe and Brad and others, have done these programs, and they're on, and you can use them again and again, both for your own meditation and to share with your friends. So as much as we thank Jan again for her inspiration last month and welcome Cynthia for her inspiration this month, I would just offer that that's something really that you can do and share with other people or use with groups. You know, somebody says, oh gosh, I want you to do a prayer or something. Well, you just got them handy right there. If your group is into meditation, and I find them very, very useful. I'm not sure what to do with them other than that. I've tried several formats to maybe um, put them in a little collection or something. Nothing seems quite to work, but at least they're there, and I welcome you to use them. So tonight, as always, we will have a presentation which will be brief to spark our contemplation, and then we'll spend our usual 22 minutes after we hear the gong to be in silence together, and then we'll listen for the gong that will start us in our discussion. And the floor will be open for conversation or not, depending on what you choose. And as you know, there are many ways to meditate. There are many ways to move into a contemplative space, whether it's breathing or using a word or phrase as a mantra, whatever works best for you. The key is that we're doing it together. And I've been with Nancy Sylvester a couple times recently, mostly on social occasions actually, and she pioneered this approach of communal contemplation and dialogue. And I have to say I haven't found anything better in my recent years, especially as I look for feminist ways to engage in prayer and meditation. And I like this because it's not one-sided. It's not all input at you, and it's not all somebody else. You're just as much involved and invited as everyone else. So communal contemplation and then the dialogue that emerges from it. And I find even in teaching and in other situations that just a few minutes of it even makes a huge difference. So welcome tonight. And again, I ask you to mute your phone until it's time to share after the meditation. I started to introduce Cynthia Tootle, who's a longtime and faithful member of this group. Many of you know she's a retired engineer, worked with the federal government. And you can imagine, as a woman, that wasn't really the easiest career there was. But she's very much at home at water, which is, as I mentioned, is up the street from her lovely home in Silver Spring, where her garden is in bloom. And she's got a little tree that I've got my eye on that she planted last year, and it's coming up in the front there, Cynthia. I when I walk by there or drive by, I take a little peek at it, and I can see that your good energies are bringing it to life. And Cynthia, in her retirement, has been studying goddesses, a different one each month, and they speak to her. And this time they told her to bring Sophia wisdom to us. So she will. Cynthia always has a unique and insightful, in my view, perspective on things, whether she's alone in her thought or part of a consensus. I've learned about her that she listens and she ponders. And I've learned to do that from her. So thanks. And please go ahead, Cynthia, with a warm welcome from water.
Well, good evening and good morning and whatever we are experiencing. Is my sound working so everybody can hear me? Okay, good. When I was thinking about doing this, I decided to sit down during one of my meditations with the intent of asking for a message for you from the goddesses. I asked, goddesses, if you desire to speak to these women, these people, I am willingly and eagerly open to being your channel. And when I was in meditation, suddenly there was a big discussion off in the side, kind of rowdy at times, but then when you have a goddess like Sekhmet in discussion, you're going to figure it's going to get rowdy. And I'm sort of sitting there patiently waiting for the goddesses to decide what to do. And then Sophia stepped forward. And I just had this sense that, of course, she'd be the right goddess to speak to you. So I'm going to read the message from the goddesses through Sophia. I'll read it twice. We greet you, beloved sisters, with such joy. We are so eager, enthusiastic, delighted to speak directly to you. Our love for you is beyond words, but our admiration and all of you needs words. All your lives, we have seen, witnessed your presences and actions on earth. You have been so strong, loving, caring. We are so proud of you. We know the limitations of being an earthbound spirit and how you have wept not being able to make the changes, heal the world, save the beings around you. Open your hearts and minds and hear us. You have been glorious. Your efforts have been fruitful on all levels. Trust our eyes. We have seen what you've done, dreamed, longed for. It was enough. It has begun. The changes you have longed for are coming. Please rest for a moment. We know that your lives had always been full of passion and action. But for a moment, we wish to give you a moment of pure rest in this company and in the arms of your mother, your sisters. Feel our love. Let it in. Let divine love and divine peace flow into you and to all humanity through you. Even as you rest this blessed evening, you will be instruments of miracle, a moment of peace. Know that we are with you always. We hear your prayers. We come when you call. And in the time when we seem most distant, we are most near. See us in each other, dear sisters. Hear us in your hearts and minds. Let our energy feed you and rest in our arms. We greet you, beloved sisters, with such joy. We are so eager, enthusiastic, delighted to speak directly to you. Our love for you is beyond words, but our admiration and awe of you needs words. All your lives we have seen, witnessed your presences and action on earth. You have been so strong, loving, caring. We are so proud of you. We know the limitation of being an earthbound spirit and how you have wept, not being able to make the changes, heal the wounds, save the beings around you. Open your hearts and minds and hear us. You have been glorious. Your efforts have been fruitful on our levels. Trust our eyes. We have seen what you have done, dreamed, longed for. It was enough. It has begun. The changes you've longed for are coming. Please rest for a moment. We know that your lives have always been full of passion and action, but for a moment, we wish to give you a moment of pure rest in this company, in the name and arms of your mother, your sisters. Feel our love. Let it in. Let divine love and divine peace flow into you and to all humanity through you. Even as you rest this blessed evening, you will be instruments of miracle, a moment of peace. Know now that we are with you always. We hear your prayers. We come when you call. In the time we seem most distant, we are most near. See us in each other, dear sisters. Hear us in your hearts and minds. Let our energy feed you and rest in our arms.
Thank you, Cynthia Tootle, and thanks to the goddesses, especially Sophia. And now we turn to our meditation for 22 minutes. I'll ring the gong, and when we finish, I'll ring it again. Thank you again to Cynthia Tootle, to the Goggle of Goddesses, and especially Sophia for bringing us this beautiful message.